And this is Stacy McKibben with the Master Communicator podcast, where CEOs, senior leaders, and C-suite executives share their advice. It's 6 questions in 9 minutes because the best leaders know how to share their ideas concisely and quickly. Let's jump right in. Question number 1. In a few sentences, tell me who you are and what you do.
So my name is Alex Waters, and I'm currently the director of Connect All, the Jacob Center, which is a City of San Diego funded initiative to create jobs through supporting low to moderate income and diverse founders. So we run an accelerator program that helps them build those foundational skills to scale their businesses.
That's amazing. And how long have you been doing that?
For about 18 months now. So we started in April of 2019. We're in our second cohort right now. And actually next week we start our third cohort.
That's amazing. So you're actually going to get to share through your experience as well as kind of the experience of, all of the member businesses that have been participating as well, their ideas about leadership. So excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Question number 2 for you. What's the best thing about leading people from your perspective?
So I'll kind of cheat on this one. I'll say it's a tie. So I have sort of a 1A and a 1B. Nice. First, it's really the opportunity to see people grow over time, overcoming challenges and building their skills. And then I would say, secondly, it provides an opportunity to really learn about yourself. So as you're leading their individuals and as you're working on leading people, there's a constant reflection of, are they sort of taking in the information that you're giving, and are you being a good leader? So it's their growth, and then also sort of my personal growth is a big part of why I appreciate sort of leadership, and the best part about it.
Beautiful. It's got kind of the give and the take element of it, the reciprocity that comes from developing others and giving of yourself in that way. That's a lovely sentiment. It's interesting though, because it leads me to question number 3, which often, gets a little chuckle, is that I sometimes will hear from other leaders that business would be great if it weren't for that, pesky people part. I'm curious, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, so anybody that's ever led people, there are challenges. People are, complex, and there are different kinds of ways in which we approach things. But I think the only thing that makes a business worthwhile are actually the people, even with all of those challenges. So everyone who's been in a leadership position, like I said, has had it. But I think sometimes we forget that we're humans first. Before we have a job, before we enter a career, before we enter into an organization. And that is the sort of the real piece of, connecting with that, right? So when people say that there's a challenge in leading people, I think it's because we sort of look at them as kind of instruments versus their full sort of human expression. And that part to me makes it much easier. And that's where sort of the messiness is, but that's where the innovation is. That's where the beauty is. That's where the opportunity for new things come from, is that kind of complicated people challenge and problem of getting folks together to either create a new vision, a new product, a new service, or just do something at a very, very high level. So certainly, there are complications that come along with having a lot of people in an organization, but without that, it's just not worth kind of doing and putting together, right? We're all a community.
Well, it's interesting. I'm sure as a child, you've heard anything worth having was worth working hard for, right? So it's like, as I'm listening to you talk about that, it's really hearkening to that kind of idea and that philosophy of it's worth it, right? Of who you get to become and together as a team, who you get to become. So,
yeah, I would definitely
amazing.
agree.
What piece of advice about communication would you give to other leaders? If I had a group right here, right now, what would you tell them?
I think I would go back to kind of what I mentioned before, is that, we're all people and humans first. So we all have different values, different desires, different needs. And sometimes I've struggled with, communicating and thinking that the one way with which I'm communicating has been clear, because I've assumed that the person has the same sort of values and wants the exact same thing that I want in this particular moment when we're talking. And so for me, I really think that to be an effective communicator is really just to understand that we all are different and we all have different things that we want. So my advice is to listen to feedback from others as you're communicating to people, and to always walk in knowing that someone has things that are outside of the business and the organization that may be very important to them, that are kind of guiding what it is that they're doing.
Love that. All right, question number 5 for you. What are the successful business leaders like yourself should be on the podcast, right? What other voices are out there in the community that we should pay attention to?
So there's a ton. I know a lot of people, I could come up with a massive list, but off the top of my head, there's a few folks. So Brad Keeler, who's the owner of Nomad Donuts, Curly Robinson, who's the founder of Focus, Debbie Chin, founder of Hydrostasis, and Dr. Sylvia Ma, who's the director over at the Center for Peace and Commerce at USD. Those are some of the people that are top of mind that, I've had personal conversations with about leadership and about how to communicate effectively with people who are sort of in the workplace. And I think they'd be great to sit down and have a chat and give their perspective in the work that they're doing.
Love that. I'll certainly go track them down and get them on the show, because I think it's so important that we look at the people around us and our immediate network. There's so much to learn from right here. But we just got to go seek that out. So I appreciate those insights. All right, magic question number 6. Bring us home, Alex. Who's your favorite boss or teacher? Who's really influenced you?
Yeah, this is kind of a tough one, because there's a whole host of people that have been a massive influence.
Takes a village, right?
On me. But I would say this might be a little bit odd, but on my background, so I probably would say existentialist thinkers, and specifically like Nietzsche, because I study that a lot. Philosophy, I've got a couple degrees in it, but thinking about how taking ownership of what is this sort of existential challenge that we all face, whether that's in business or personal life, and still forge to sort of push through to create new and innovative and creative things. So I find myself going back constantly to kind of get additional information, additional details, additional inspiration from a lot of the existentialist thinkers. So that's what I would put down.
And do you find too that, as you go back and reread some things, are you learning new things the second and third times that you're reading them, or it's just kind of helping you to peel back the onion in some way?
Absolutely. It's like every different time frame, when I first read when I was in the, early 20s, then the mid 20s, the 30s to now late 30s, like it changes because my perspective changes on how I'm viewing any of the content and the materials. But it's just as powerful now as it was sort of the first time that I picked up any of, I'd say, like existentialist thought and books.
That's cool. That's cool, because again, I think that we forget sometimes that we can go back and refresh things. Oftentimes, I think we believe we've read that before, we've done that, we got that dialed in. But there's, again, as you're suggesting that, well, but you're a new person now, so you might actually look at the material differently today than you did then. And so there might be a whole nother layer of learning you're missing out on just simply because you're not revisiting that. So thank you for kind of sharing that suggestion. I think that's a really important one for us to take away. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Alex. It's been absolutely a pleasure to have you here. If somebody wanted to reach out and introduce themselves or say hi or learn more, how might they go about that?
Yeah, you can find me. I'm on LinkedIn. You can give me an email, awaters@connect.org. I even tell people they can give me a call. So I'm always open to meeting new people, and I can give my numbers. It's 202-595-4216. Happy to connect with anybody and talk about whether it's communication, leadership, businesses, resources, all those different kinds of things.
That's amazing. Well, again, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here. And this is Stacey McKibben with the Master Communicator Podcast. For more ideas and insights, please do go check us out at www.concilioteam.com. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. Take care.